My great pleasure to introduce Dr. Pawel Ploski, a distinguished theater scholar and editor, currently serving as a vice dean and a former dean of the Theater Studies Department in the Aleksander Zelwerowicz Theater Academy in Warsaw. He also holds the position of director at the Museum of Caricature in Warsaw and serves as a vice president of the Polish Society for Theater Research. Until 2020, for over 10 years, he had been head of the literary department at the National Theatre in Warsaw. Dr. Pawel Ploski has also been actively working for many years as a theater scholar, editor, researcher, and of Polish cultural policy and expert in theater organization. He collaborates with the Zbigniew Raszewski Theater Institute, and he also been affiliated with the SWPS University and Cardinal Stefan Wyszyński University in Warsaw. He is the author of numerous articles on cultural policy and theater history, as well as the report Organizational Transformations of Theater in Poland 1989 to 2009, commissioned by the Ministry of Culture and National Heritage. He has also prepared reports for the Association of Theater Directors in 2010, and the Adam Mickiewicz Institute in 2011, and Senate of Republic of Poland in 2021. As an editor, Dr. Ploski has contributed to several influential publications, including the series Theater Krytycy, Theater Critics, where he prepared volumes devoted to Polish theater critics, first Jerzy Koenig and second to Janusz Majcherek. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Pawel Ploski. And
after that presentation, I can die, I think, and I'm very glad that I can meet you today. This is great privilege for me. Have to an occasion to have a small lecture for you. You can see right away that lecturer are meeting because all cameras are on, and I think it's not usual view for us during lectures. First of all, I will read first, and then I try to improvise some phrases about situation in Warsaw theaters. So let me start with my lecture with very earnest, very serious title, Waiting for a Copernican Turn: Public and NGO Theaters in Warsaw. So almost 20 years ago, during one of the discussions about the Polish theater, Michał Merczyński, then director of Malta Festival and director of Grzegorz Jarzyna's Theater Warsaw Theater, he gave his listeners during that discussion, mostly directors of state, regional and municipal theaters, the following choice: a theater institution or project. Merczyński himself chose a project that is a quotation, a market of ideas and artistic volumes, community goals, and not only statistics. What he considered a nightmare was the fact that institutions are over-invested while there are no financial means assigned to projects. It's time to stop supporting by force all theater institutions, where salaries are low and there is no money for theater productions. In his opinion, the city of Warsaw, then, 20 years ago, cannot afford maintaining 19 theaters. Already it is 17 today, because not all of them deserve to be subsidized. Merczyński criticized the way money is divided among theaters. Merczyński recalled that Peter Brook's theater then was a foundation, and each year they have to fill in forms and apply for grants, which makes their situation similar to the majority of the Polish independent theater groups or festivals. And next quotation: Directors of all theater institutions in Poland are in a whole lot better situation than Peter Brook. Why then shouldn't we verify all institutions according to the most important criteria, the artistic ones? There are enough financial means for theater activity in Poland, but they are not fairly distributed. I have an impression that the system needs to be shaken, and we'll say it again. First of all, projects. And in order to emphasize the problem, Merczyński pointed out that the disproportion between means handed down by local governments to their municipal regional theaters and means assigned to the additional activities, all grants, projects, artistic events, is a 10-1. Actually, I checked that this proportion, and it was then 27-1. So I think Merczyński didn't check his statistics. He tried to create strong numbers, but reality was even worse. Not only was, still is much not better for NGO theaters in Poland. And he ended his speech with that words: "A person who is able to turn the disproportion around will be an author of the real Copernican revolution in the system of theater financing." And in that moment when Merczyński called for change, it was the time when the situation started to clear up. In that moment, at the beginning of the 21st century, firstly, the Ministry of Culture began to distribute, subsidize in a more professional manner. During 90s of 20th century, it was like American wrestling, who had good contact with Ministry of Culture or with self-governments in Poland could get money, but system of grants was very unclear. And now I show my presentation. I hope that you can see everything. Okay. And now I try to describe situation in Warsaw Theatre and that landscape of theaters in Warsaw. And first of all, public theaters in Warsaw, this is especially group of municipal theaters, 17. In the 20 years ago, it was 19 theaters. And it was effect of very very unclear, very not good projected decentralization of theaters, because till 90s all theaters was operated by the state. Some theaters by Ministry of Culture, and the rest of theaters was operated by voivodeship, regional state representatives. And during 90s, all theaters from voivodeship was put into care of local self-governments, regional or municipal self-governments. And because of that, Warsaw, the richest city in Poland, became a patron of different groups of theaters. First of all, in 1991, there was strange situation, because Council of Warsaw decided to privatize some theaters. But first of all, they had to have some theaters, so they decided to negotiate with voivodeship and take care of some theaters, because they wanted to sell them to the private owners. So it was kind of scandal that public local authorities wants to make deal with businessmen, but it was that difficult and strange time in Poland that everything was possible because during transformation, money went from hand to hand, from institution to institution, and it was easy to do something which is unreal today with better law, with better practices in public life. And at the beginning of the 90s, Warsaw became a patron of 12 theaters, and during years, next theaters, because of problems of other self-governments in Warsaw with financing theaters, that theaters from voivodeship, from regional authorities, were put into a group of municipal theaters. That's why in Warsaw we have only 3 regional theaters managed by regional self-government, and 3 national theaters under protection of Ministry of Culture. And I have to add one information: 17 theaters. It's not. This is group of very different theaters, from huge dramatic stages with 500 seats in audience, and also quite small theaters for young audience, or 3 puppetry theater with audience for 150 to 100 kids in audience. So this is very various group, and I think this is difficult to compare that group, for example, with Berlin theaters. It's always good example in Polish discussion that Berlin has only 6, 8, and nobody has good information and real data, but it's good to say Berlin has only 6, 8 theaters, and Warsaw is so richer than Berlin, and has 17 theaters. But I think this is effect of tradition of times of communism, because then every initiative could get money, and very different initiative has had state financing, and because of that, many small theater with state subsidy became theaters in new democratic Poland, and they still exist. And much more different situation is with non-public theaters, because how you can see that strong and still active group is quite small. 7 commercial theaters with own stages, but because many commercial companies try to rent stages in center of culture in different districts of Warsaw, but we have 7 commercial theaters with own name, with own mark, and their production is especially comedies, farces, entertaining. In Warsaw, still there is no space and no money for private musical theaters. That's why only 2 musical theaters in Warsaw are subsidized by city of Warsaw, Roma, and Syrena. And we have 11 non-profit theaters, NGO theaters, with municipal grants on different levels, 3-year 3 years grants or 1 year grant. But what I have to underline, and what is quite sad, that after 50 years of observing of situation in Warsaw, that group hasn't changed. When I become a scholar in theater policy, the group was the same as today, still the same NGOs, still the same people, 20, 15 years older, and this is for me kind of petrification or glass roof for new initiatives of much more younger actors and directors. This is a strange situation, and I hope that that system will open for young generations. And if I mean what I mean if I say young generation, 40, 30 years old directors and actors, because that group of theaters are managed by directors and directors around 50s, and I hope they will make space for new ones. I would like to say something about how to say it, about problems between public and non-public theaters. And when I say about that situation, when in 1991, Council of Warsaw tried to privatize theater, it was in the same time first real, well-organized private theater started in Warsaw. It was theater company connected with musical Metro. That was small company Batax, created by businessmen with strange connection with secret service, in communist secret service, and he had a big amount of money, and he decided to create something new in Polish theater, and decided to produce something like musical, Broadway-like, and in January of 1991, Metro, subway, underground, started its history, and it was huge success. I think it was very important voice in Polish theater then. Of course, it was time when and always in Polish theater, all masters of much more progressive theaters, they had better opinions, but Metro, it was like a social event. In the moment when audience decreased, Metro was sold out, and especially young audience came to see that musical. I think because it was only one play at that time, where problem to be or to have was asked to people, because it was time for young people to choose their future and to decide how to behave in new democratic capitalistic Poland. And with Metro was also connected problem of wild privatization, because owner of Batax tried to buy the biggest dramatic theater in Warsaw, and he also tried to buy two other quite huge theaters in Warsaw, and it was a difficult and strange situation, because at the beginning he rent all spaces. So in one building there were two operators, private one, Batax, and old public institution, old theater, with his company, with his team, artistic, administration, with all techniques, and it was difficult to negotiate how to work, how to share the stage, for example, for performances, because between metro spectacles, there was performances, plays of Polish classics, or for example, of Hamlet. And that moment of trying of selling theaters to private owners, it was called wild privatization, because there were no rules. Everything was in shadow, without transparency, and for it was fortunately time where when Polish newspapers, Polish journalists, after time of censorship, they made use of free speech, and they tried to be well informed, and they try to check connection between business, between local authorities, and they did a rumor about metro, and that moment, and that idea of privatization, and it was moment when metro came to Broadway after 1 year in Poland. Boss of Batax decided to show to Americans how to how to create a musical, and it was a great lose. Only 2 weeks Metro was on Broadway stage, and because of that, Batax lost all money. And after that, boss of Batax, Viktor Kubiak, had to resign from idea of buying theaters from city council of Warsaw, and also in after 2-3 years of transformation, also society and also politics were tired with all changes, with all financial problems, and many people had much more trust to public funding, to public institutions, and for 10 years, any private ideas in theater landscape hasn't increased. And I changed the time. We are in 21st century, and I try to describe two important moments for relation in between public and NGO theaters. First of all, Grzegorz Jarzyna, he's quite famous, TR Warszawa, his theater. He cooperated then with Krzysztof Warlikowski, Polish critic Piotr Gruszczyński called them younger and more talented, because in 60s we have young and talented directors. And Jarzyna and Warlikowski created plays for young audience, with audience who like techno, who like city energy, and his theater, we can call it kind of Zeittheater, I think, because in TR Warszawa there was a pulse of modern Poland. And after 5 years of directing in TR Warszawa, Grzegorz Jarzyna decided to close his theater, that space, because they waited for rebuild, for modernizations, and he decided to create a project Area Warsaw, Teren Warszawa. He decided to prepare a place in different stages, in office building, in waiting room of central railway station in Warsaw, in dark room also. And I think by this project he had shown to NGO theaters that it's possible to create space for theater everywhere. I know that is a strong commentary, but before that moment, all NGO theaters tried to find real stage with real seats, especially in center of culture. So always that NGO theaters had to share space with other activities of that centers. And I think Jarzyna showed to others that it's good to have own space, with own name, with own address. And second important thing was that moment that one of the most outstanding Polish actresses, Krystyna Janda, well known from movies of Wajda or Istvan Sabo or Bugajski, for example, and she was a laureate of Palme d'Or in Cannes in 1989, and she decided, after conflict in her public theater, where she was an actress during 20 years, she decided to create own space, own theater in old movie theater in center of Warsaw. In old Cinema Polonia, she created own Polonia Theater, Teatr Polonia, and in 2005 she has started her adventure with own theater. And at the beginning of that time, she showed to public theaters and directors of public theaters that also in NGO theater, good artistic quality could be created, and I think her first premieres were much more politically engaged than in other public theaters with quite huge subsidies. And that was a strong moment. Jarzyna showed that it's possible to create theater everywhere. Krystyna Janda showed that it's possible to throw away everything, her position in public theater, and start something from the beginning with great risk. And it was a moment when non-public theater, NGO theater, became more visible in Warsaw. Also, City Hall decided to increase amount of money for NGO projects. And between 2005 and 2008, amount of money was doubled. So NGO at first time had more and more money, and idea became important, not only well-written project, but quality was important, and good ideas. And now I try to show how theaters was used in problems with new money in Warsaw, with gentrification, because I try to show some examples. And first of all, during last 2 decades, non-profit theaters warmed up the image of investors, and there were I try to show also by images how everything has changed. First of all, Teatr Wytwórnia, factory theater, I can translate it, and it was first theater which decided to work in old post-industrial space, in old factory of vodka, of Polish vodka, and during 5 years they created a repertoire, new premieres in difficult area, because Teatr Wytwórnia was active in bad fame district Praga. And for example, for many of people who decided to come to Teatr Wytwórnia, it was difficult to go through Ząbkowska Street because of her bad fame, because of possibility to meet bandits or to be stolen. And after 5 years, investor decided to say goodbye to Teatr Wytwórnia and started rebuild of that space. And after that 10 years, new Centrum Koneser was opened, and without theaters, without exhibition, but with Google space startup hub, with many shops and elegant restaurants, and nobody remember that everything started with theater. And another interesting example, it was cooperation with Studio Koło Theater and investors, because you can see theater started his work in that ugly building, and prepared during 5 years 7 premieres, and it was also a moment to create an image of investor, and also of the idea of rebuilding of that post-industrial space. They try to warm up, because that was also Praga, district with bad fame, and they try to show that it's something interesting, progressive in that difficult space. And after 5 years, they decided to change the building in something quite new and well looking. But after that 5 years, Studio Koło changed address a little bit, around 500 meters, and they had new local in Soho factory. Same investor who also tried to create image of artistic area with museum of neons, with performances, with exhibitions. But during 10 years of cooperation, in that small area, Studio Koło Theatre had changed address 3 times because all spaces for theater was demolished for new buildings with apartments, and now we have the around 6 buildings with 200 apartments each, and only restaurants still work, and the most famous cultural initiative in that space, Museum of Warsaw Neons. So theaters had to find something in other places in Warsaw, in other districts. That case of Studio Koło, that was the most impressive example for me of using theater for PR goals, for CSR position between other investors. But after some years, the investor resigned and changed the plans and changed idea of that place. And also there is in Poland famous idea of public-private partnership, but sometimes we can call it only PP, prestigious projects, because, for example, when 20 years ago was created very exclusive and with for people with money place, Fabryka Trzciny, with restaurants, with small concerts, and that was the space for rent, for business, for companies' events. And City Hall decided to rent space of Fabryka Trzciny for municipal theater. Why? Because City Hall rented space, and because of that, owner of Fabryka Trzciny could to pay his bills, and it was that owner of Fabryka Trzciny, Wojciech Trzciński, had good connection with City Hall, and it was a good deal for colleague from his colleagues from local authorities. Also, we have better example of public-private partnership. This is 6th floor theater in Palace of Culture and Science. Theater established by famous and well-known Polish actor Michał Żebrowski, and he explained that of course city pay money for modernization, but his theater paying rent, long-term rent, giving that money back to the city hall. And this is only theater where president of Warsaw still attend, because Rafał Trzaskowski, now candidate for president of Republic of Poland, he is a friend of Żebrowski. They met in primary school, and they are still friends. And because of that friendship, president of Warsaw is always come always as a guest to the premieres of private sixth floor theater, but he didn't attend premieres in public theaters. And during last years, we have also difficult situation where theaters, public theaters, lose buildings, and sometimes it was a moment for something new, something better. And the best example, this is Nowy Teatr, created by Krzysztof Warlikowski on the ruins of Teatr Nowy. And in 2013, Warlikowski and his company got new building, post-industrial building in Mokotów district, with new techniques, with many possibilities. But at the beginning of that adventure, Teatr Nowy lost his building, and how you can see on that right image, now in building of theater there is Carrefour, supermarket, because City Hall decided to give up of paying rent, and firms of supermarkets decided to create the space for supermarkets there. And for 20 years, always supermarkets are there. Sometimes Tesco, sometimes Carrefour. Names are changed by still we have unfortunately supermarket there. But after 8 years, City Hall ended the modernization of that post-industrial space, and a new theater has own space. Very modern and very en vogue, I can say, also because of a cafeteria and bookstore, and even when there is no place or artistic events, always many people from Mokotów come there. Other examples, this is gentrification per se. Some theaters, public theaters, municipal theaters, lost their spaces because investors bought terrain areas of post-industrial spaces, and theater lost stages, and unfortunately for theater Scena Prezentacje, that was end of existing, and that institution was changed into Warsaw Observatory of Culture, and unfortunately it's not the theater anymore. But the most fresh example, this is a case of Jewish theater in Warsaw, because it was a very strange situation. They had building from 60s of 20th century, and they decided to sell that building for Gelamco, a great investor who declared that in that building, 120 meters high, there will be space also for theater. And since 2016, when theater had to move out and building was demolished, nothing happened in that area. We have hole in the ground, and we still waiting for that new building. And now we still don't know if Gelamco will build space for theater. And at the end, we have I have two examples of battles for space because we have one difficult situation of that Kamienica, non-public theater created by actor Emilian Kamiński. After 3 years of working in space, which he created from basement pavement of building, building in neighborhood of City Hall, wall to wall with President of Warsaw. And after 3 years, this honest businessman with dark interest, he attempt to evict that theater. And how to say it, building is managed by community, buildings community, and he bought one space on the third floor and decided to divide that space between different companies, and he tried to create majority in board of buildings community and try to make theater move out. And after a long battle in the court, still that Kamienica can work in that place, which they create because it was a real pavement with coal, with 15 years ago. It was difficult to imagine that the three stages are possible in that space, and now we still have that stage and that institution in own place, but that battle in court still is still working. That businessmen still try to catch that space, and now it's very interesting, modern and rebuilt space, and big money he can earn if he catch it and sell it to someone else. And at the end, I don't know if it is funny or good story at the end, but because NGO theaters, very progressive theaters, Komuna Warszawa, after they lost their space on Prague, they rent old primary school in heart of Warsaw, very close to central railway station, in the shadow of the most famous buildings, office buildings in Warsaw, for example, Marriott Hotel, and they create space for performances, play, exhibitions, workshops in that old school, which was closed 20 years ago, and it is free space for very different activities. And now Komuna Warszawa tried to make lobbying because they want to have that space for longer time, and try to discuss with City Hall, which try to sell that school and sell that area for new office building, and because this is center of Warsaw, terrain is very it's not cheap, and city could earn big amount of money from this place. And that idea of cultural social quarter in Warsaw received some prizes for that idea. Very fresh, open for different groups, but in City Hall, business view is more important than cultural problems and cultural ideas, unfortunately. And I think in Warsaw we still waiting for Copernican turn, and sometimes I lose my hope that anything will change. Thank you. I take too much time. Sorry.
Thank you so much.